what I mean by Khadi urbanism is to achieve Swaraj. It was like self-respect, self-governance, self-actualization. That, hey, I have choices and I feel capable to do something with my life. Summer, it is touching 48, 49 degrees Celsius here. And one should just extrapolate what will happen 10 years down the line. So again, if you look at this street, it's just a sea of asphalt that I see. From horizon to horizon, it's just a lot of asphalt. There are like 6-lane roads and there's hardly any footpath. And I felt this sense of dysphoria that I felt ripped out and I didn't know where I even belong. Do I belong in Pune or do I belong in Vadodara? What do I do? So I decided to put my talents to some use. And again, I am not an architect, not an urban designer. And I started to question, like, where are we going wrong? Why are all these architects, urban designers not doing anything? Where is the municipality? And why do they not even have their finances in check? Why do they not have the money to do all this? What is going wrong? What is wrong with the population? That the most obvious things are not happening. So it's just, and my neighborhood of mine has been flooded multiple times each year, like anything. And it completely gets flooded because there's like, where is the open soil? Now there are storms, divert the water downstream and the villages downstream then completely flood. So now I'll take you through the street I've been retrofitting, and I call this Adhikar Path. And over time, what happened was that I started with nothing. I didn't know. I had never touched even a bamboo stick before. Each and every person in this country of 143 crore people can, be it a child, be it an elderly, man, woman, transgender, possibly even the disabled and the illiterate. So now suddenly, as you see, as you enter this street, there are more trees, but it wasn't always so. This street was completely barren when I began in 2016. The central divider was completely barren. The soil was white in color. There were twisters of sand whenever the wind blew. And as I said, one species of bird, pigeon, that's it. But now this is kind of what it looks like. It's a work in progress. And we started doing a lot of things. So we started with the most basic thing, that what is the most uncontroversial thing that nobody would mind. And I started targeting places which I knew nobody would have a problem with, because the center divider is nobody's property. Huge sense of, hey, I'm breaking the law by planting a tree, because we are all grown up in this very regimented system where we feel that we have to ask permission for every single thing. But the more I started to question, it was like, hey, people don't take permission to urinate on the street or spit pan on the street. Shadi ka barat nikalta hai, political rallies or whatever, like 100 things happen. Cattle is let loose on the street, people throw litter on the street. So many things happen without permission. So what's the problem if I start planting something or painting something? So I sort of built my own courage that way, and obviously I had a help of friends like Krishant and many others who completely aided me in the journey. So what I'll try to show you here is a shop shutter that we painted. And what I really wanted was just a bit of Pune in my Baroda street. And now I want this to become the best street in Gujarat. That is my ambition right now. And then slowly, as you start learning more, you start developing confidence, you start thinking of the higher objectives. And it's really important, I feel, to go through this journey, because until we know how to or feel confident to even dig up one paver block, how are we going to stop a giant flyover coming on Marine Drive? What hope do we have? The more I learned, I started developing this philosophy, and that philosophy is now something I call as anarchist urbanism. And I have different names for it. So In Hindi, you could call it Swarajyavadi Shahrikaran, or one more word for it, which you'll see as I show you. I call it Khadi urbanism, and it's very deliberately named so because Pune not because a few councillors decided to make it so. There is this thing called as incremental urbanism, and I want to what do architects do? They or not every architect, mind you, but a lot of architects, they have this eagle view plan and they look at the city from above, and that completely rules out or excludes the agency of the 1 crore people that may be living in, say, Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad. So through an inclusive, democratic, incremental process, okay, not through some master plan. And just to give you one small example, I told you of all the Indian cities, master planned Indian cities that are completely failed. But this trend has been going on worldwide for decades. You look at Canberra, you look at Islamabad, you look at Brasilia. What do all of them have in common? They are all centrally planned cities, and they have all been abject failures. Abject failures. Like I'll just give you an example. Gandhinagar and Pimpri Chinchwad were both established at the same time in the mid 1960s, 65, 70 years ago or something. Pimpri Chinchwad today has more population than Baroda. Pimpri Chinchwad has a population of 25 lakh. Baroda, which was a princely state and cultural and educational capital, is completely stagnant. Pimpri Chinchwad started as a Sindhi refugee camp from partition era, and Gandhinagar was supposed to be named after a great freedom fighter and the capital of Gujarat. And today the population of Gandhinagar is 1/10 of Pimpri Chinchwad. It is 2.5 lakh. So both cities established at the same time, but see the difference, and that difference is going to widen in the decades to come. The reason why that has happened is there are some places in India which follow an incremental style of urbanism, and where public investment follows private investment. Private investment, and by private I mean individuals' investment in the street, is absolutely necessary. Whereas in all the failed examples that I mentioned, what has happened is you assume that there's going to be a huge demand. In fact, Dholera, how could I miss out Dholera and Gift? Complete failures. You assume there's going to be a huge demand. You already assume it's going to be a rockstar city. And so you plan giant streets and you lay out the pipelines and electricity lines and sewage lines, and everything happens pehle se pre-planned. You lay out the neighborhoods and you designate the business area and the residential area and all that. And then what happens is people don't want to come there because it's a ghost town. It's a bhoot bangla, it's a zombie land, it's a graveyard. So when you drive on Baroda streets, the streets feel empty. There's nothing happening on the streets. You're just, Trishant would know what I'm saying. You're just driving around for miles and miles and there's nothing but roads to look at. Unless you go to the old city area, where things were walkable and more compact and whatever, everything else is just sprawling suburban nightmare, if I were to put it that way. So again, I am trying to change that, and I want to again emphasize that all of you can do that, because I'm pretty sure these problems exist in all the cities that you have ever visited or stayed in. Now, if you suddenly enter this part of the street, suddenly you start noticing there's a bit more density in the greenery, and suddenly it starts feeling a bit more cozy. There's a lot more shade. In fact, the temperature difference in peak summer on World Environment Day, June 5, is from the circle I was earlier at, which is just 100 meters behind, to this place. It's 15 degrees Celsius. 15. My goal was 5 degrees Celsius. It is 15 degrees Celsius. And now the ecological aspect comes here. It's almost almost like an afterthought. Sure, you should ensure biodiversity and need, but I also want to point out that do not let great become the enemy of good enough. Okay, because in a place where people have never seen trees their entire life, where people are cutting trees because they are afraid their SUV is getting damaged, or it's like almost a paranoia that kids will get killed because branches will fall or whatever. It's like a once in a blue moon, once in a 100-year event, but they are afraid of that, And I just showed you Pune's example. That wasn't just one street. All of Pune is like that. And not just Pune. Again, part of it is geological, but a lot of it is socio-cultural. You bring a Keralite, and there are a lot of Malayali people living in Baroda. Look at their bungalows. Their courtyards will be a full jungle. Kerala, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra, but somewhere north of Maharashtra, partly geological, but a lot of it socio-cultural. Madhya Pradesh also very forested, but then something happens, Haryana, Gujarat, Punjab, something goes wrong over there. Just you saw 100 meters behind that whole circle, and literally the whole city, the whole neighborhood is like that. Just a sea of asphalt and nothing, there's no charm, there's nothing remarkable. You don't even feel like inviting ki aao mera mohalla dekho. There's no quality of that sort. But suddenly, if you come, as I was saying, I'll just take you a little behind. You can see the difference. This is actually the improved street, but this is actually what goes on. That the municipality keeps cutting the tree and they butcher the trees like anything. They don't just trim the trees. They butcher the trees. And so I am also I know Gujarati. I'm born and brought up in Gujarati, so I don't want to hate on Gujarat, but I'm pretty sure these problems exist in some other places as well. So the idea of a tree is just a 15-20 foot stump, not a giant canopy of this sort. I mean, there are examples. The idea of these problems exist in a lot of places, but the municipality is actually the enemy. The people in charge are actually the enemy. They are the ones who are coming and butchering the trees which they themselves have planted. It's their cages. They are butchering the trees, and the idea is a 20-foot stump or a 15-foot stump. And we have been fighting like hell to stop this from happening. And the trees, there are examples of trees which are giant and large, but those examples are there because somebody has fought to and literally gone to the axe wielder and said, no, you are not going to touch this. And the reasons for cutting trees are absolutely anything. There's an electric line, so don't trim the tree, cut it off. They have grown too much, darkness, bats, monkeys, you name it. It will fall on my child, it will fall on my SUV, kachro thai che, like leaf litter. But the leaf litter is what is enriching your soil. It is what is helping absorb the water. Every inch from wall to wall is paved. Every square inch is paved. So where is the water percolation happening? How will things not flood? So groundwater recharge and flooding are two sides of the same coin. And we could have AI and we could go to the moon in 40 days time, or we should be going to Mars in the future. But what about our planet Earth? And as I was saying, AI is there, genetic editing is there, quantum, whatever is there. This revolution is not going to happen at the click of a button. This revolution can only happen one uprooted paver block at a time and one narrowed street at a time. Because when you have carpeted there are streets in Baroda where there is no footpath and the asphalt is all the way up to the compound wall. Where is the scope to even plant a tree then? A paver block is modular. You can remove a paver block and plant a tree at least, or a shrub or a vine. When there is just asphalt from edge to edge, the municipality is actually the enemy. It is eliminating the chance of even planting a tree. And I was saying, the trees are there, sure, but they are somewhere in a ground or they are in a garden. You are center of the street, giving the canopy in a place where it's needed the most: Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab. So again, if I can just quickly take you through the street, Suddenly you see the density of trees and plants and shrubs. Again, this is a banyan tree, 25-year-old banyan tree this is. It is as old as me, possibly same age as me. This is what the municipality does to it. I could not save this tree, but I saved the next tree. This is also a banyan tree. There is an electric line running, but we told them that no, let the tree grow above the tree is bent because it doesn't get sunlight. The house is blocking the sunlight. So the tree is bent toward the street. You keep cutting it, the tree will keep bending more. On top of it, you do not leave any root, like any space around the roots. You literally choke it or put a corset or a tight belt on it. So naturally it's going to bend. And because it bends, they feel, oh, it's overgrown or it is a hazard. Let me cut it down. Rather, the tree has a natural ability. You can see there's a bend in the tree right now. And why is the bend happening? Because the tree has found sunlight behind the house as it grows taller. So the tree naturally stabilizes the more deeper its roots grow and the more taller you allow it to grow. But if you keep cutting it, nor are the roots going to grow, and then eventually it's always going to remain like this. But nevertheless, I want you to notice all of this has been done by us in a completely handmade fashion. There is no machinery involved, there is no factory involved, there is no template or software involved, there is no degree or 4-year college course involved. What I mean by Khadi urbanism is, again, you think of the charkha and why that charkha philosophy was propagated. It wasn't just to achieve British independence. It was to achieve Swaraj. It was like self-respect, self-governance, self-actualization. That, hey, I have choices and I feel capable to do something with my life. The spiritually starving millions, as Mohandas Gandhi said. The step that you are going to take, think whether it will uplift the last person in line. And what does all this do? It's not just ecology.